Alright, let's go over the health-related components of fitness and how to use those for like goal setting and the research that we'll do in this class. So we're going to go over qualitative versus quantitative assessments because we're going to be doing both. The health history questionnaire that you'll be doing is both a mix of qualitative and quantitative. So qualitative would be more subjective, so asking somebody how they feel, trying to get an idea of what they want out of a fitness program. So you're going for feelings there. It's less objective. So quantitative is objective. So that's like getting some hard data. So when you look at the health history questionnaire, you're going to see that it's both. Not only does it ask some subjective questions on like how people feel, but it also gets to some quantitative assessment like family history, joint problems. Those are objective. You either do or you don't have heart problems. You know, it's one of those real easy things to quantify. So we're going to do both in this class. So types of exercise research, empirical research, which is qualitative and quantitative. There's correlational research, so that's more for prediction. There's experimental research where we're like comparing two different groups, doing experiments. Experimental can actually be laboratory where it's more controlled, so you're trying to reduce all outside influence. But what we're going to do in this class is field-based, where we're going to be doing pre and post testing and looking at improvement based on the fitness plans that we develop, see how much we improve based on the fitness plan that we set up for ourselves. So types of correlations. You have positive, so as one set of numbers goes up, the other goes up in the corresponding direction. Then you have negative, so they both go down in the same direction. And then you have inverse. As one goes up, the other goes down, or vice versa. So those are all used for prediction. So if we're looking at correlations, that means we're looking to try to predict how somebody's going to perform if we're thinking about exercise. So variables, you have independent variables and you have dependent variables. You're going to see this in experimental designs. We won't deal with it too much in this class, but it's important for you to know. So an example of an independent variable would be the amount of aerobic exercise that's prescribed to an athlete. And then we could go back and check to see how much of an impact that had on their blood pressure. So we would do blood pressure pre, and we would do blood pressure post, and in between that we would have prescribed them exercise to see if it changed their blood pressure. So reinforcement versus punishment is used more in goal setting. So you may try to come up with a way to help yourself achieve goals, and a lot of times you're going to do that through reinforcement, and sometimes you do it through punishment. But the key here is if you're trying to increase behavior, that's reinforcement. If you're trying to decrease behavior, then that's punishment. So an example of positive reinforcement would be you give me something I want to increase the behavior you want to see in me. So you want me to do something, you give me something I want. So negative reinforcement would be you take something away that I want in order to increase my behavior. So you're taking away my cell phone because you want me to get good grades. That's the behavior you want to be increased, but I can't get my cell phone back until those grades go up. But you're going to increase the behavior you want to see. And then punishment, so positive punishment would be you give me some sort of adverse stimulus that I don't want to cause me to decrease my behavior. So I do something you don't like, and then an example of that would be corporal punishment, where somebody gets hit with a paddle. And then you have negative punishment, where you're taking something away that I like to decrease a behavior. So anyway, hope that clears that up, but those can be used in goal setting. More than likely, you'll want reinforcement. You don't want to punish yourself. So, health history questionnaire, the purpose behind it is make sure we don't have any kind of pre-existing problems before we start working out. You may have heard it called a PAR-Q. They're essentially the same thing. So we just want to try to get an idea of their perception of their own fitness, and are they ready to exercise? Because if they have extremely high blood pressure, for example, we don't want them jumping out there getting really high heart rates and stroking out on us. So that's the reason we always start with blood pressure first when we do pre-testing. But we have to go through this health history questionnaire to check and make sure they don't have any pre-existing problems. So red flags, we worry about cardiovascular issues, chronic breathing issues, joint ailments, any kind of previous disease, family history. All of those are red flags. If we see those and they have not been cleared to exercise by a doctor, then we're going to make sure that they go see a doctor before they work out. Doesn't mean we can't do any pre-testing. We just can't do anything physical with them. So they can do all the measurements that don't require anything physical, like blood pressure, girth measurements, checking their weight, but we can't have them do anything physical for the risk of them causing injury to themselves. So first thing we'll do is have them go see a doctor if they don't have any proof that they've seen a doctor. So if they tell you that there's something that causes a red flag in your eyes and you're just unsure, always have them go see a doctor before they start working out. Alright, so let's go here. So some of the non-physical measurements would be blood pressure, resting heart rate, weight, girth measurements, body compositions. All of those can be done without getting extremely high heart rates. We don't have to worry about anybody getting hurt doing those. Now the physical measurements would be like a 1 rep max. So if you're testing out muscle strength, a 1 rep max on bench press will give you an estimate of how much weight somebody can lift one time. And then number of push-ups to fatigue would be more muscle endurance. Same thing with sit-ups and lunges for 1 minute. Those are all estimates of muscle endurance. 1.5 mile run or a 3-minute step test is normally used to test cardiorespiratory endurance. And sit and reach is going to measure lower back and hamstring flexibility. So if you have really long arms and short legs, you're going to do well on that test. If you have really long legs and short arms, little T-Rex arms, you're not going to do so well on a sit and reach. But it's a test that has a lot of normative data. We can compare ourselves to a really large population and give an idea of how we compare and where we're at when it comes to flexibility. So how to use the health history questionnaire. So you'll use it in conjunction with pre-testing. So as long as they don't have anything major wrong with them or they've been cleared by a doctor, then we can start pre-testing. And a lot of health history questionnaires will have some goals set on the back. So based on those goals and their fitness level, we can develop a plan. And then we use the FIT principle to set up the plan. And that stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type. So frequency is how often they work out. Intensity is how hard they go. So if we're doing cardio, that would be a heart rate. If we're lifting weights, that would be more of how much weight that we're lifting or number of repetitions that we're doing. The type of exercise that we do is either aerobic or anaerobic. And then the time, how long did we go for? So we want to use those to help build a solid plan. So you do your pre-testing at the beginning along with the health history questionnaire to find out where you're at. Then wherever your weaknesses are or whatever your goals are, whatever you want to improve, you develop a plan based on the FIT principle. And at the end of a certain period of time, you come back and you test again to see how much you improved. And that's the post-test. And you need to analyze that data. Did you achieve what you wanted to? If not, then you adjust your plan. If you achieved everything that you wanted to, you might tweak your plan a little bit and just continue with it. Maybe you make it more difficult so that you get progression and overload. And that way you don't plateau. So storage of pre-testing information. If you are the person and you have a client and you're doing pre- and post-testing on them, you don't want anybody else to get access to that information. It's confidential and you don't need to talk about it. So you don't want to be going and telling somebody about somebody else's weight or how they did on a test. It needs to be secured somewhere, and you need to make sure that you're not talking about it. Goal setting. How do you set up goals for yourself or other people? Use SMART goals. They need to be specific. Get right down to the root of the problem. What do you want to change? They need to be measurable. So that's the reason we do pre-testing, so we can measure where we're at and see how much we improve. They need to be attainable. They need to be realistic. If I come in and say I want to drop 15% body fat in 2 weeks. That's not realistic and it's not healthy. And so that goes to the next one. Are they realistic and time bound? You need to set some sort of time frame so that you go back and check to see if you're either on track to obtain your long-term goals, or you need some sort of time frame to go back in to see where you're at, or maybe it's at the end of a workout program and you go back in and do the post-testing again before you start again. But having short-term goals that lead to long-term goals are best. And so for today, you're going to complete the health history questionnaire, and then you'll turn that into me. You'll submit it through Canvas. So I hope this helps. I'm trying to keep these lectures short so they're not too long. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video now. So if I'm talking fast, I'm sorry, but I have to do it to keep them short.